Hey friends, so in this video we're going to talk about Bruner's view of the narrative self. So this is the view that he really wants to articulate and that he advocates for. So what is it? Well, he gives a kind of snappy summary of it at one point where he describes the self not as like atomistic, but rather as swarms of participation. What does that mean? Well, the heart of the narrative view of the self is that what a self is telling stories about ourselves, right? That we construct narratives around our identities. So, quick example. Me. I am a philosophy professor in the Northwest. So there are certain kinds of expectations that are sort of culturally present for people who live in the Northwest, as well as academics. So when I meet people, when I meet somebody new at a conference, they'll usually ask if I really like hiking because I'm in the Northwest. The answer is not really. Or if I meet somebody new at a party, this has happened to me a few times, they'll say, "Oh, you teach philosophy. You must be really smart." And I say, I wouldn't bet on that, my friend. So there are these social expectations that others have of us in virtue of the roles we occupy. So where do these expectations come from? Well, they come from the broader culture that we inhabit. So we have these cultural stories about people in the Northwest, about academics, about men, about people who wear glasses even. Maybe less of that these days, but you're picking up what I'm putting down. And these cultural narratives shape how we see others and the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. Now, it's worth noting that our narratives about ourselves are not exclusively caused by cultural narratives. They're also constituted by our individual experiences. So the experiences that I have feed into the narrative I tell about myself, that I tell myself about myself. So what we have then is we have cultural narratives and individual experiences coming together to tell us, to inform our narratives about ourselves. But there's a third element here, right? We have the cultural material, we have the individual experience, but we also have other people. Other people inform us about our own narratives. So the ways in which people interact with me help shape my narrative about myself. Conversely, the way in which I interact with others shapes their narratives around themselves. So what we end up with is that the self is a narrative constituted by our experiences, other people, and the broader culture. But keep in mind that we are part of groups of people and also part of the culture, so that we are part of other people's narratives. So what we get is this dynamic kind of recursive effect in which the ways in which I interact with others shape how they're going to interact with me. And so if we're going to try to identify the boundaries of the self, if we're going to try to identify where the self begins and ends, well, there really is no clear answer, because who I am affects other people, and who other people are affects me. And we're all contributing to the broader culture. And my experiences, the ways in which I understand my experiences, these too are affected by my interactions with others and with the broader culture. So what we have then is a swarm of information, a swarm of inputs, all contributing to the story I tell myself about who I am. That is my self-narrative.